Hello, it's so good to see you all today. Welcome to your Desire Mastermind. I want to start by talking to you today about a tool that I've been using and teaching for a long time. And those of you who've worked with me before, or read my books, or listened to my podcasts may be familiar with that. And that is this idea that you really put yourself into the vision of what you want to create, what you want to be, what you want to do, and what you want to have. And when I'm getting people used to that, who are not used to spending time visioning and really feeling and experiencing where they want to be and how they want it to be, I tell them, if you would just take 5 minutes a day for 30 days, and you would vision your life, your future, the future you, and what you're creating and what you desire now, at the end of 30 days, you'll be amazed at what you see happening. So I want to remind you of this tool, or talk to you about this tool and using this tool. And what happens is it's all about all of your senses. If you follow Abraham Hicks' teachings, they also talked about scripting, which is where you're talking about it or writing it out in the present as if it already is. Bob Proctor always had where you would write out, I am so happy and grateful now that. So in the same way, you're saying, I'm so excited, look at my life. And you can kind of picture it like if you and I knew each other and I hadn't seen you in a long time, and we met up for coffee or we ran into each other somewhere, and I said, what has been going on? The way that you would tell me, oh my gosh, this is happening, this happened, I have this, I'm doing this, I love this. And you would say it in that way, in the present, as if it is happening and you have it and you're being and doing it now. And the more you can engage all your senses. So I really, when it was broken down for me, was learning all the things. Where am I living? What does it look like? What's the environment? And remember, the more you can leave the hows to the universe, so you're just looking at what kind of area and what kind of house or what kind of dwelling do I live in, and what car am I driving, and where am I working? Am I working from home? Am I in an office space? Or maybe I'm doing other things that I love doing. Am I traveling? Where am I going? Who are the people around me? It can even be, I have my set tea time every morning or my coffee time, and I make time for that. I go to my yoga classes. I do my meditation. It's really getting that feel for what it feels like, sounds like, looks like, tastes like, all of the things that you're doing. If you were someone who wants to cook more for yourself, or you want to remember foods you love and then you're always too busy, it's smell and taste those foods, and you're going to the store and you're buying the ingredients, whatever the things you love, and create the whole life. So at any time, we might be really focused on a certain area. For me, I am often very focused on visioning my business, especially those years when it was, I've got to get my business working. I've got to get it working consistently. I want to be doing my work in the world. But then I realized I needed to not build it in a vacuum. And it worked better for me when I came at it from this approach, rather than just trying to create this business. If I could create the life that I want to live, and then create the business that supports and sustains that life. And then I learned even more than that, to expand it out, that all the good can come to me from everywhere. Money can come from anywhere. Opportunities can come from anywhere. And I used to really be focused on my coaching business, what I'm doing there, how much money I need to make in that. And then I really, a few years ago, started expanding that. Yes, I want my coaching business to be really profitable and to be really fulfilling at a soul level. And at the same time, I can also be building and growing wealth in other places, and opportunities can come to me for anything all over, and they can be good fits as well. So it's really expanding that and working with your whole life. And at first, when you sit down, you're kind of really scripting it. So you'll find that you'll be sitting there and you'll say, okay, where am I? What is it I like? What am I doing? How much money is in the bank? And then it will start, if you're revisiting it every day or very often and consistently, it starts building its own energy, because you're projecting your desires and your positive story into the future and pulling it to you in form. And so in the same way, you can do the little things that show up right away. So at first, you're really having to think about it and say it. And then you'll notice you'll start sitting down, and you may have found this in other visualizing or meditations. All of a sudden, you sit down and things appear in your meditation or your visualization that you didn't create with your mind. Your energy of it starts showing up, and then it's like, oh, what's that? How interesting. Look what just showed up, or look who popped in my mind. And now you're really co-creating with spirit, and you're watching what shows up in this picture that you've built for yourself. So you create it where you're going back to a certain place, a certain vision every time you sit down to do this, and just 5 minutes a day. So first, you'll notice things start showing up in the vision, and then the vision starts running itself to you like a movie, and then it's some combination of that. Then you'll start recognizing that you want to be feeling the feelings and amplifying the feelings every time you're sitting in that space. And at the same time, you're noticing anything that comes in that says, you shouldn't ask for that. That's too much. That's 5 years away. That's not possible. You can't have that. That's too greedy, or that's too much. Whatever comes in, so you can catch those things. The next thing that will happen is you'll start recognizing things will show up in your third dimensional world that match some of those things. For instance, if you're wanting a whole new house, or a remodeled or redecorated house, and you're still calling in the money, or you haven't gone into the space yet, you don't have it yet, you can start by doing things that bring you joy in your space. So you can start by, I did something recently. We did not like our couch at all. And we kept saying, but it's not old enough yet. We paid a lot for it. And then finally we were like, you know what? We want to be happy. We want to be comfortable. It was hurting my husband's neck and back because he's really tall, and it was hitting too low. And we were like, this is ridiculous. So as I was picturing the couch, the perfect couch, what do we want? I saw online these just teal pillows where you get the pillow covers and you stuff them. And I ordered them, and I put them on my old couch. And I said, I can't wait until these are on my new furniture. And it was a little pop of color, and it made me feel so good. And then pretty quickly after that, oh yeah, see, Jesse's showing it. And shortly after that, we got the new furniture, and then I put my pillows on the new furniture. And what happened, because there was no lack, I found the lack story. That's not reasonable. That's not practical. You know, if you want this, why are you living with what you don't like at all? And then when we went, it was the perfect price, the perfect thing that we wanted, and we were able to get it. So, but in the meantime, we're picturing it, we pulled up the carpet and we cleaned the carpet so that when the new furniture is going to be here, and we put the pillows. And so anything like that, that makes you feel good in that environment, that starts having you live as if, and being able to find that joy in that as you go along. So then what'll happen, I posted something recently about manifesting on Facebook, and it's gotten tons of engagement, and all these people were like, yeah, sounds great. Yes, I love this. Yes, true, you're right. And then the one that stuck out to me, because this happens to so many people, she said, I'm utterly frustrated because what I'm attracting is everything I don't want. And then people don't know how to interpret that. And so it's like, it can't work for me. God said, no, it's not my time. I must do something wrong. And so I wrote to her, no, it actually means those things are coming, means you have high desire for what you want. And the universe always says, ask and it is given, here it is, and starts delivering it to you. And what comes up is anything that needs to be cleared, healed, and resolved, because it's in the way and you can't keep having it, being it, or doing it. Old patterns, toxic environments, relationships, just ways of doing things. And not all of them are even bad. This is what I want you to really realize. Some you've just outgrown. So some we know, I eat too much sugar, I never exercise, or I don't sleep well. We know those are, I mean, I don't put labels like bad, but we know those are just things that we could change and they would make a difference for everyone. But it can just even be the ways we've done things because it worked at the time and now it doesn't work. The people that have the results that you want would not be being and doing and having that. And we bump up against that. And I mean, that with the couches, because I'm usually pretty good, even when it comes to Christmas or my birthday, I have a hard time telling my family what I want, because when I want things, I get them for myself. And so it was just an old thing. It was like there was some level, but this would be too much or irresponsible. And then, of course, my husband was involved. So he had his own thing about, no, we'll do it when this and when this and when this. And finally, it was like, no, this is a lot of energy. That, so it's just ways to do things differently than you're doing now, even if they served you at some time. So when you're doing this visioning, you're going to start seeing things coming in that are the things that you asked for. And then you're going to see the things come in. Like this woman was playing this part out too much, so much. And this is where people get in a headlock with it. And then she was making the story bigger and bigger. She wasn't having some of both. And so her story to me, I mean, I could read it and I could feel it and hear it, was, no, everything I'm attracting is what I don't want. Now I'm so frustrated, because what happens when you have really high desire and the universe is trying to deliver to you what you're asking for, and you have things in the way, remember, it is going to stretch and grow you, because if you were already a match to it, you would already have it. But then you start getting in this standoff or this headlock with the universe, and the universe cannot ever stop giving you what you're asking for. Sometimes when I've had clients get really stuck in this, where they have really high desire and they have really high resistance for whatever reason, or they're just unaware that this is how it works, I will tell them, you're at the point where you need to either start taking aligned, inspired action, or you're going to create a mess for yourself where it appears that the rug is getting pulled out from under you, or you've got to stop desiring it. And you all know, I'm not one that's going to be telling people don't desire, but at some point you have to get honest with yourself that you got to stop asking and desiring if you're going to play it against yourself. And I've seen people so many times, y'all have seen them too, and probably been the receiver of this, where all of a sudden the rug gets pulled out from under you. People lose their job, they lose a relationship, they have to move, something happens. There was one where one of my mentors, who knows a lot of this stuff and has created much bigger success than me, and she had really high desire, and she's saying, here's what we're doing in the world, here's what we're doing, and yet she was resisting in some ways, that she had a flood come in and make the decision for her. Now, in hindsight, she would never say, I'm going to create a flood, or that's the way I want this to happen. But those are how those things look, and people will they feel blindsided. That's what's going on. So you want to pay attention to what's coming in that is a match for what you want. That's where you're getting feedback. I'm already open to this, clear channels, I can receive this. Then, like that woman saying, all that's coming to me is what I don't want. And then she makes the story bigger and bigger. Now, I would bet, I wasn't coaching her, she just was on my feed, on my thread talking. I would bet that that story has gotten so big that we would have to pick apart and we could find some of what she does want coming in. But because she's amplifying this story, generalizing, even nothing that I want is coming, everything I don't want is showing up. That's where you want to catch yourself. It's showing up because she has high desire, and she's either not seeing the opportunities, or she's not taking the inspired aligned actions, or she's resisting with some deep blocks, triggers, programming, conditioning, limiting beliefs. So if you can realize that's an extreme, but it's a good extreme, because remember, everything's on a continuum. When I told you I got in that place where I felt like I'm in the field, I'm riding the wave, everything I want is coming and everything is going in my favor, to she's saying nothing is working. And most of the time we're in between. So what you want to do is get really hyper alert and be looking at what is showing up that you don't want, that's frustrating you. What stories are you making about it? Because if you can go, oh, good, there's feedback, now I can fix this. But right now, her story to me was almost to convince me, no, I wish this worked, but it's not working for me. And then we can even get into that martyr, survivor, like, yeah, that works for everybody else, but it doesn't work for me. It's never worked for me. And then that's what story has to be true. So thinking about spending this time visioning. So then the other thing I told you, your vision starts growing and evolving and things emerge. And what I want you to know too, it's okay as the desires change. We talked last time about acting, assessing and adjusting and making course corrections. You can really be in the middle of something and recognize, wait, my dream is already evolving, it's growing and changing, or this isn't actually what I want. So you just want to make sure this is not what I want anymore, or this is not what I actually want, is not fear-driven or lack-driven, but it can change. One of the things that happens when you hear about quantum leaps, we get into that space where you're really bending time, and they talk about collapsing. You can start moving so fast and taking so much massive, aligned, inspired action that it's like if there were 10 steps, and this has happened to me many times, all of a sudden you're taking the massive action, there's some steps that disappear because you no longer need them, because you already got the lesson or you already shifted beyond them. So you don't want to be like, oh no, but wait, I got to do this thing next, or these 3 things. You can sometimes skip over those steps. So allowing it to grow and evolve, or sometimes what you think, this happened in the very beginning of my business. What I achieved by year 2 in my business was the only dream I had for my business, which was a local healing practice. And I wanted it to be in a space on my downtown historic square in McKinney, Texas. My first business was right off the square. Then when that closed down and I kept going, I ended up in a business on the square. And then I hit a moment of like, well, wait, I have this. I wasn't making all the money I even needed at that point, but it was like this, some people would just want this, like this is their dream. And thought this was my dream because I didn't know what else there would be. But then I got asked to speak and write and do these other things. And then I found coaching. And so I went beyond it. Sometimes you hit what you thought was your big dream that's going to take 5 years or more, and suddenly you're there because you skip steps. I thought I was at least 5 years out from being a part of Lilydale, other than to teach there in the summer. And then it amped up because of my soul contract and what I was willing to do at that point. So you want to be watching and seeing. And if you wake up and you're living your dream, what you've created to this point, it's time to dream a new dream, because we're always growing and expanding. All of this is going on at once. And if you have a frustrating day or moment, you don't want to do what this woman was doing and grab that and carry that like a badge of suffering or honor that it's not working. It's good to look at, okay, well, what is showing up? Because that's what I would do with her first. Okay, so tell me the exact things that are showing up that you don't want, because there's your feedback right there. Then we have all those different tools, because remember, when anything shows up that you don't want, we're experiencing the contrast of what we do want. So we say, what do I need to do to change this? But we also can say, I'm no longer available for that. I'm no longer available for that. I'm only available for, and we can start speaking that. Also, when I'm talking about skipping steps, some people are very invested, and I really was very invested in my early years. And it's hard if I'm going to learn spiritual lessons and personal growth, because I'm so into it and I love transformation so much. It's going to be hard. Like, I even had a story, but I wasn't aware of it, that there is nothing on some level like digging into your deepest stuff and then coming out the other side. But then I got to a place where, well, I don't need those brick to the head lessons anymore. There was a time for that. So my other mantra now is with grace and ease. Show me with grace and ease. I learn my lessons with grace and ease, because I'm catching on now. And as you all are more insightful, you're more alert and aware, and you're open. All of you are very open to different degrees in your own healing and transformation. And you realize this whole journey is a very intensive personal and spiritual growth and development journey. So that's another thing. You can talk to spirit and you can say with grace and ease. And what happens then is sometimes you'll catch a lesson 100 yards out. You no longer need that person to come into a relationship with you, move into your home, sit at a desk next to you, employ them in your business, have somebody borrow money from you, all those things. You can spot it and catch it. This happened to me a few years ago. And to let you know how there are certain issues that are core issues. So when I first opened my business in 2017, I allowed in a business partner. We became very friends, and then a business partner, but she kind of moved into all of my stuff. And then she didn't have a place to live, so she moved into my house. I was very much into all of that. And then so she's in my office, because I had my little house then for my work. She starts overtaking my clients, my community. And I was thinking, oh, this is wonderful, until it wasn't. So it was an old pattern for me to want to be in relationship with other people so much. And it only happens if somebody really presents like she had the talk, she had it all together. But my part in it was letting someone come in and overshadow me, and then taking and taking and taking like that. So now I can say, you know what? I learned a really hard business lesson early. It was painful when we separated. We had formed a 501c3 together. We were really enmeshed, and we were doing amazing healing work until it went bad in a lot of ways. And I thought, you know what, better when I actually am not making money right now in my business than when I have $100,000 or $1 million business. So I learned that lesson early on. Well, then I could spot them 10 miles away. I never let it happen again for 10 years. I thought I can see it coming. I'm not going to do it, because I even could see earlier in my life. That was the first time it was with my business, but I could see earlier in my life, I let things like that happen. So then 10 years later, a woman comes in, we start becoming friends. She sees my business and everything I have. Now we're training together as mediums at that time. So we are really, we're on an equal at that, because, and we're traveling all over the world together and we're doing all these fun things and it's amazing. But those boundaries got soft again and I didn't see it. It was a blind spot. And here it was coming in again, to the point that a coach I had, and this is why sometimes it's really good to have a coach. I was just starting to get inklings, but that something was wrong and off and red flags. And my coach actually pointed it out. And then I said, oh my gosh, this is what I did 10 years ago. But bought it quick enough, it would have taken down a much bigger business. I was handing her my business without realizing it. It would have done so much damage, and you think you know better. So my point is, luckily I caught it, but they can get back, those things can get back in. We can really know, we can really understand, but some of our desires that are human, to belong, to share, to collaborate, to have friendships, to have adventure and fun. But I had those loose boundaries and I caught it in time. But again, it was painful, because then I had to change a relationship that I had let get icky, and that was on me. And then you have to turn around and be like, no, wait, we can't be like this anymore. So sharing that with you to show you that in between 10 years, it's never a linear when you're growing and evolving and learning. It's always a spiral. And I'd gotten up the spiral to that next point, and there was something enough of a match. Again, Spirit was like, we got to make sure you're not still to this, because where you're going next would be really devastating. So this happened we're in 2023. So 4 years ago. And I was really on the cusp, and my business was starting to grow and get bigger. But in the past few years, my business has gotten really big in ways it wouldn't have if I had kept that situation going. And I had to learn those lessons. So it's like up the spiral. And then I'd like to think I won't repeat it again. But you have to always be aware. And it doesn't mean, oh, you didn't learn the lesson, you weren't good enough, or any of that. And what's interesting is, alongside that, it's also matches of energy, because alongside that, I have some really solid business collaborations that I never do that with, including the person I own my house in Lilydale with a business partner. And that doesn't ever happen. So it's not that I'm doing that with everyone or no one. This woman matched the energy. And when I took it apart, it was mother stuff. Of course, I tell y'all all the time about mother stuff. It was so crazy. And I knew more this time around. I could see exactly an old pattern with my mother that started when I was a baby. This is how this stuff happens. Meanwhile, all my other business partnerships are solid. Nobody gets in like that. Even the person, like I said, I own a house with, and we don't have any of that. And then of course, once it all came down, and I have a few really trusted friends, and I was telling them, and their faces were like, yeah, like we couldn't figure out why you didn't see it. You know how that is. We couldn't figure out, but your friends can't tell you what you can't hear. So again, and it's not even all or nothing. it's that I allowed that. It was a match. I was still playing stuff out, and she was playing stuff out of hers with me. And I allowed those boundaries. I allowed that stuff to come in, but also I would have a hard time trading it because we traveled all over the world together and we had so much fun and we did amazing things. We studied with world-class mediums all over the world. We went to Arthur Findlay College in England. I mean, it was a ball, but I just want you all to be aware. And then Spirit was like, okay, but this is happening and we need you to grow to the next level in your business and we can't have this. So being aware of all that, it becomes all that of managing your energy and your world and catching these things. And there are moments you can be like, my gosh, how do people, like, that's a full-time job. So luckily, I always have people helping me and advising me and consulting me. And also, I'm very clear with my spirit team, and whatever way you understand them, you can say, you know, show me, really show me when I need to know things. And so I needed to get into that to some degree. And now I've got to just watch it again. It's like everybody has an Achilles heel or a thing, and it kind of lures you in and you're always growing. Because if I were done growing, I don't really need my business anymore. And then when you're done growing, you really leave, because we're here to grow and evolve. So it was just that next. And that's where it got in, because I have worked on boundaries. All of you that are helpers and healers, you've probably had to as well. We have had to work on boundaries forever, personally, romantically, professionally, money, in workplaces, all of that. So this was just an Achilles heel for me. So it's a process and you're not going to be perfect at it. And again, I learned something and I grew from it. There was some pain from it, but again, it catapulted me, just like the other one, of skipping some steps. So had I not gotten it so clearly with that first one 10 years earlier, there might have been more of those teachers showing up. But when I saw it and got it, I got it. And then I checked in. I had my community then was full of psychics and mediums and healers, and I got some advice and some consulting and coaching around it. So just taking all this in, the question I have for you to really explore this month and this week is, what is my next level of evolution? Because the other thing is, when these things start showing up that you don't want, so you could be keeping a journal of them, or just keeping track, or notes in your phone, or whatever it is that works for you. But they're never random. They all have purpose. So even now, I'm always watching with the next level of my evolution. So I'm visioning my vision now, and your vision will change. It can change every few years. It can change within a year. And what is the next level of my evolution? So what is the next level of your evolution? And where are you being stretched and grown? That's what you want to look at, whatever. So the next level of your evolution is that vision, where you are visioning where you're going and who you're becoming as if it is now. And then where are you being stretched and grown will show up in what are you getting back? Where are you stuck, stalled, frozen, paralyzed, or what's showing up that you're like, I certainly didn't want that, and that keeps showing up. And remember, anything that shows up 3 times is a pattern, and you can start actively looking at it. Especially where you have that really high desire, like this woman I was talking about. She wasn't even having some of both. She's really stuck with the universe because she really wants this, but she has a story. It doesn't work for her. It's not working for her. And again, if we took her life apart and we looked at all the feedback and all the pieces, there are reasons for that. So thinking about that, and then the one last part of that, why you're really getting in with the vision to the thinking and the feeling of it, is a lot of people have in their mind, even when they're manifesting, oh, when I have this, I'll have joy or peace or love or whatever it is. And you actually, I posted in our group the Abraham Hicks scale of the emotional guidance scale and the David Hawkins power versus force scale that I had talked about with you all. It actually, if you can take little moments to get in joy or wherever you can get in those higher consciousness and emotions, instead of saying, oh, I'll be so happy when I have that, you'll have that when you're so happy. And then of course you will be happy when you have it, but it's really flipping that. So again, we can't always go from despair to joy, but we can reach for the next highest feeling and the next highest. And what's one thing that brings you joy? You might buy yourself fresh flowers and put them in a vase. That's one that works for me. And recently it was sunflowers, because I love sunflowers. And I just bought the big sunflowers and put them on a vase on my kitchen counter where I work, so that I can look at them and just be like, oh, I love that. I love that. That makes me so happy. It's like I've been burning candles more when I'm sitting there working. What are things that bring you joy? And what are things that you can add in right now that will bring you into those spaces? So working with the vision tool. What is the next level of my evolution? And where are you being stretched and grown? And then watch what is showing up. You could even have 2 columns on a paper, and every time something shows up, it's either going to be a match to what you want and are asking for, or a way to get you there, or it's a match to what you don't want, but you know it's part of your stuff. If and when I could totally clear this one that showed up again a few years ago, I could possibly have a very different experience and not attract that in anymore, and be able to have more of the parts I wanted. Because I told you there were so many parts I wanted, but playing out the stuff, they came with parts I didn't want and the person that I attracted to play it out with me. So what I can say is, oh, I want another friendship, business bestie like that. And here's the things I want. We travel the world, and see, I'm feeling it right now. So it's not like, well, I can't have it at all because people take advantage of me. That's a story we could make up. And the original time, I was so angry at that woman, and I didn't understand all that I do now. So it was like, she used me. She used everybody in my community. She's horrible. I can't have any of it because of that. But with this one, I recognized, let me take all the pieces that were great, the adventures we had, the travel, the fun. We swam with dolphins. We went to Chichen Itza. So I start picturing all that. And then it's like, oh, I can have that again, all of those pieces, but I'm no longer available for this, handing any part of my business over, letting people break those boundaries, whatever those things are. And then I could have the parts of it that I want. So you see, it's a big difference where people are like, should have known better. Bad people are out there. This time, I didn't have to hate her. The first one, we ended up never speaking again. Never speaking again. And she had lived in my house. We had been super close. And with this one, we still talk. I had to distance to some degree. And then she's still around. And I never had to hate her or make her bad because of my part in it as well. Now, she can choose to work out her part or not, and that's not my business. but you see. So anything you're living right now, start pulling out the good parts. Or if you want to go back to the past, oh, I loved this. And here's what I loved about it, what I didn't like about it, and I'm no longer available for. And this is something also, if you're working on attracting clients, you can get into this feeling. I have a funny story about it, because early on, I got my first few clients and then it kind of stopped. And then I learned about this, about calling in new clients like the ones I love. And I'd had this client, Rita, and she had worked with me in my 90-day container that I was just starting to sell. And Rita was amazing. We did the deepest work and got these results. And at that time, it was funny too, because I would say, I would work with my 90-day clients and I'd be like, it's been great, thanks, bye. And I didn't know how to explore if people wanted to continue to work with me. I had to learn all those things. So I was sitting there, you cannot make this stuff up, right in front of the computer. Oh, Spirit, send me more Ritas. I love Rita. I love the work I did with Rita. I was picturing Rita's face. I was picturing the work and how good it felt. And Messenger pops up and it was Rita. And she said, I know I already worked with you for 90 days, but I was wondering, am I allowed to work with you again? Because I had not even left that open at the time for people. So when I said, send me more Ritas, I actually got Rita. And Rita lived in Scotland. We had never met in our whole lives. And she's like, sign me up for 90 more days. Here's my credit card. And at that time, I was like, oh my gosh, this stuff works. But think about, and then more clients started coming in. So I will do that. Oh, I love Rita. Send me more Ritas. And then I'll also think of clients that were not a great match or played out a lot of stuff or were really resistant. And I can say pieces of that I'm no longer available for, or that's not the client I want. By the time I had seen my first 12 coaching clients, I knew which ones I loved the most and which ones I really didn't want to work with again. So see, you can use this for everything because you're feeling. And I was saying, send me more Ritas. And then their Rita pops up. And I was like, thank you. So it really does work. And working with this vision tool, and be really consistent with it and see what shows up in the next 30 days.